You're listening to a new episode of Girl Down Podcast with your host, me, Aeon. So sit back, relax, and listen as I unpack the uncertainty of my 30s, one episode at a time. Hey, welcome to another episode of Girl Down Podcast with your host, me, Aeon. First of all, to start this off, I want to let y'all know that the Girl Down Podcast Patreon is now active. Make sure that you're going over to the Patreon page. It only costs $10 a month. I have episodes up now. So make sure y'all go and check that out. I'm actually, in addition to recording shows for the regular podcast today, I'll be putting on some makeup and recording some videos for the Patreon. So please make sure, if you haven't already, go on over, become a patron. Some of the episodes that I have up there, I have 2 new hotels episodes. I got an episode talking about T.S. Madison's new show and just some of my current thoughts on T.S. Madison. And the first episode is a more in-depth discussion of why I ended up back number 5 to a podcast on Black Trans Women Talk. So make sure you go on over to the Patreon page. As always, the link to the page is in the show notes for the show. So make sure you go on over there, become a patron, start the conversation. Also, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Wendell. Please forgive me. I should have been checking my email a long time ago. But Kevin, who is a supporter of mine and a listener of the show, sent in an email about the Sydney Star episode where I just talked about Sydney and her relationship with Darius McCray and just the fallout with that. And I'm gonna read the email. Kevin said, I doubt Darius McCray was dating Sydney. More of a sneaky link than anything else. Sydney was out on OnlyFans, having too many dudes for Darius McCrary's taste. I think that they hooked up. I think that they hooked up, but I think it was something more there. They obviously had a friendship, but I definitely thank you for your feedback. I'm sorry that it took me so long to get back to you, but I want to encourage all of my listeners, because I know you are all out there, to also send emails to me just about your different reactions to the show and different opinions that you may have. You can email the podcast directly at girldownpodcast@gmail.com. And who knows, I might include your response in the next episode. What I want to talk about today. So I've been watching Euphoria. I think this week the 4th episode will be out, and I really, really, really love that show. I think it's very trippy. I love the conversation. The show is having so many conversations because there's so many characters that the show follows. But overall, I do like the spotlight on how they're choosing to approach drug use, addiction, relationships, codependency. You know me, I'm a girl that loves things that are thematic and things that are layered. So Euphoria is definitely great at what it does, and it's visually stunning and visually striking. But today, I want to focus on one of the characters, probably one of my favorite characters on the show. Her name is Kat Hernandez. And Kat is a Latinx woman on the show. She's a thick girl, she's a fat girl. And she's just a bad bitch. Like, when I saw her in season one, I loved her storyline. So basically, on season one, her storyline was really about her owning her fatness, owning her sexuality, and really it really there were certain episodes that focused on her navigating the world, navigating her sexuality, through this fat Latinx lens. And I loved every minute of her storyline. She definitely emerged as one of my favorite characters from the series. And towards the end of season one, she got into a relationship with this guy. And in season two, now they're exploring the relationship, and particularly they're exploring how sometimes you want to break up with somebody and they don't it doesn't have to be this to be this bad thing. Maybe you're not feeling them. Maybe your vibe is not matching their vibe. And Kat, from the episodes that we've seen so far, she's really struggling to vocalize how she feels within her relationship, because she knows that her partner is a good person. He's nice and he's really into her, but he's kind of a square. He's kind of boring. And she's looking for something more exciting. In episode 2, she has this fantasy that this really big buff man kills her boyfriend and comes in and has sex with her. But she knows that there's something more to just it has to be something more to than just being satisfied in this monogamous relationship where she's really not getting the action, she's not getting the spark, she's not getting the thing. And it's been interesting watching her in season 2, because how she is, or at least how she comes across in the show, in this relationship, she's a way more subdued version of herself than we met her in season 1. Like, season 1, her attitude was like, I'm that bitch. She was dressing down, and she still has a little bit of elements of that, but from what we've seen of her, she's very more toned down. But you can tell she's having a struggle with that, because that's really not her. And I just love this. I love the storyline. I've also been watching people have conversations about Euphoria, particularly about Kat's storylines, particularly about when it comes to fat people, how in romantic relationships, a lot of the response that people are having to Kat this season is that, why isn't this man good enough for her? She should be lucky to have a man, and she should just make the best of the situation, because at least she has a man. And a lot of the narrative, particularly when it comes to fat people and romance, is that any desires or any fantasies we have, we should just suppress those. And if we find somebody that wants to be with us and wants to claim with us publicly, we should just be grateful for what we have, and we should shut the fuck up, and we should just be grateful. And because we're fat and we're undesirable, and who wants us, and or even you have a man, so what are you complaining about? Very much that. And I don't know where the end of the season is going to go, but I really like that they are exploring this. That just because you get into a relationship, or just because you partner off, doesn't mean that your passions or your desires, that they die out because you're in this relationship, or that you should stop fantasizing. And what I hope they explore, which I hope that they can do it in a healthy way, and it's not something so dramatic, but this is Euphoria and this is HBO, so there's going to be a mess involved. I'm hoping there's a way that Kat can leave her relationship with her boyfriend Ethan, and leave it in a way where of course he's probably going to be hurt that he doesn't want to be with her anymore, but sometimes if something is not right, it's just not right, and it doesn't mean that the person is a bad person, or sometimes it's just not a right fit, or sometimes they're just not giving you the ooh ah sensation. And I can relate so much because I've had that experience so many times where I haven't been, well, I've been in one relationship where it kind of fizzled out, but more often than not, I'm usually in a situation where there are guys right now, particularly guys that I hook up with, that I have a sexual relationship with, that I am comfortable with, and I know that if I snapped my fingers and said, "Oh, I wanted to try to date you or try to be in a relationship," they would most definitely be down. But for me, while the sex is good or I have that comfortability with them, I could see me getting bored in the relationship because maybe who we are as people, we just don't click or we don't match, or particularly for me to be in a relationship or for me to want to see somebody all of the time, which is what commitment in a relationship requires. It has to be something very magnetic about your personality, or something very, it has to be something special about you that makes me want to see you, that makes me want to be enthralled by you, that makes me want to have this fire or this passion for you. And for these guys, while I do enjoy having fun with them or having sex with them, I just, if I were to get into a relationship, I could feel myself getting bored. So I'd rather not even cross that bridge. And I feel like so many people are partnered to people where it's convenient to be partnered to them, but is this really the person that you feel passion for? Is this really the person who is your fantasy, who you're fantasizing about, and who are your desires? And how do you navigate that if they're not? Are we just going to go through the motions, or are we going to step out on faith and take the risk of being by yourselves, but going on this path where you really get to be yourself in your truest form and have somebody meet you in that truest form, and you just vibe off of each other and it's an energy exchange? But especially as a fat person of color, are you willing to take the risk and do that, knowing that you could possibly be alone, or it might take you a longer time to find this passion that you think you're missing from this relationship? Because that unfortunately, that these are the thoughts that you have to take into the consideration, especially when you're already in a relationship. Because even if a relationship is not, there's not this passion and there's not this lust and there's not all of that, there is some comfort because you already know this person. Maybe you're in a pattern, maybe it's a predictability about the relationship. But I'm just so happy that they're exploring this storyline on Euphoria, and they're choosing this particular character to explore this storyline with Kat and Ethan and their relationship. But I just want to leave this episode off with, Miss Thing, fat bitches have fantasies too. Fat bitches have fantasies too. And sometimes we need the ooh ah ah sensation. And it's okay to wonder. It's okay to fantasize. It's okay to speak those things. I wonder if the storyline, maybe Kat can be honest with her partner and say this is what she needs. And who knows, maybe he might not be as boring as she thinks he is in her head. Because you never know, especially if you're going to be in a relationship, you got to give people the opportunity to rise to the occasion. So I just hope it doesn't end up with her finding somebody else and then cheating. But yeah, when you're committed, you have to give your partner the opportunity to rise to the occasion, and your partner should be somebody that you should feel comfortable enough to share your fears with, to share your secrets, to share your fantasies, to share your doubts with. And who knows, maybe he might be holding it back because he feels like he has to show up a certain way in the relationship, and he can't be free. But bitch, I just love this storyline so much. I live for Kat so much, and I can't wait to watch the next episode of Euphoria. If you all have not watched Euphoria, I strongly suggest that you watch the show. It's a really good show. I'm about to get up off of here, but I just really wanted to talk about Kat, and I live for the representation of fat girls on TV, fat women on TV having sexual feelings and desires, and that being honestly explored with so many layers and so much nuance and a little bit of comedy. So I live so much, but. Until I'll see y'all on the next episode. Make sure you go on over to the Patreon episode, liking the videos on there, commenting, and I'll see y'all soon. All right, bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Girl Down Podcast with me, Aeon. If you like the show, please be sure to go on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast. Also, make sure that you're engaging with me on social media. Also, if you have any inquiries or you want to send me any questions, be sure to email me at girldownpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, bye y'all.